Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now today we're going to be talking about AI art, and that has been a very popular topic recently with a lot of controversy and a lot of excitement, especially with the public demo and releases of some models and some demos that people have been able to use themselves and experience the amazingness of AI art. Previously, AI art was very hard to set up. Like before, I would say when I got into it, it was already very easy for me to do. You just had to run a Colab notebook and configure a few things, and then you'll be right up and running and generating your own images. But now AI art has advanced to the point where it's able to create a lot of amazing things that previously it was sort of you can kind of see it, and now you can actually generate sort of the prompts that you send it, and it's kind of cool and sometimes kind of creepy. And so in this video, we're going to be covering sort of two different types of AI art. One is GAN based and one is diffuser based. And then we're going to talk about sort of the controversy and some of my thoughts on uh, if AI art is good or bad, and how we should do things moving forward. Of course, these are just my current thoughts at this point in time. They could change, and if you want to debate me or have any comments, please feel free to leave them below. Or if you just want to say hi, make sure to leave a like as well. So let's get started first with GANs. So GANs are a generative adversarial network, and on this channel, I'm not going to be going into depth on exactly all the technical details because there are a lot of great channels out there who do that, and I just want to sort of help people understand the topic enough so we can talk a little bit about what it does and sort of the conversations that people are having. In today's case, sort of the controversy of artists and copyrighted works and things like that. So all I'm gonna say about GANs are it's a special type of neural network that basically has two parts. One is a generator and one is a discriminator. And what that does is one guy, you can think of this like two guys in a room. One guy is learning to draw something really, really well, and the other guy is learning how to figure out whether or not this piece of art or this thing that you created is original work, or is it drawn by the guy who's trying to fake it. So basically, the guy who's trying to fake it is going to draw better and better images to try to fool the guy who's trying to figure out whether or not it's fake or not. And then the guy who's figuring out if it's fake or not is going to get better and better, and basically push up that level of fakery by the other guy. Oh, it kind of made it kind of confusing, but basically you got two competing neural networks, and all we care about technically is the generator who creates that artwork, who creates that fake artwork as best as it can. I'm going to do a quick example just sort of visually on what a GAN does during training, and we can see this is the real data that the discriminator gets. So the generator never sees the real data. What it will do is it'll just sort of first draw something random like this, draw something random, and then the discriminator will pass back some data points like, hey, this part doesn't look really real and this part doesn't look really good, and that's why I was able to tell it was a fake. And then the generator, over many generations, over training for a long time, you can see the loss will come down. I ran this for a while, and you can see it started to get kind of close to the real one. It's able to kind of fake it and get close, and that's how it learns. And so the most famous one of these GANs is StyleGAN, and that's basically able to generate pictures. And in this specific implementation, they generated pictures of people, and these pictures are all fake people. These people are not real, and sometimes you're able to sort of look at these generations and you can kind of tell that there's something off about them. Sometimes they have, bad teeth, or later on in other models they have bad hands, and so you're, as a human, you can kind of tell, but upon first look they look pretty realistic. And of course there's also GANs for cats, and this is actually one of the first projects that I've worked on using GANs myself, is to train a model to draw cats as good as it can. And you can see here's some examples of the cats that it draws, and obviously there are things like a very, very long neck, or like eyes that are kind of mismatched, that you can kind of tell that this is fake. But once you train it enough, it can get pretty good at what it does. And here are some pictures of cars. Of course, upon first glance, you might think this is absolutely real cars. And if you look closer, you can see the badges are sort of not as good. The text is kind of weird. And that's sort of the thing about GANs, is it's able to train for the general gist of the item. And a lot of these generative models fail sort of in the text department, or the details, or something that has specific structure. It's kind of hard to train for that. It's able to draw the general structure. And there are a lot of pre-trained style GANs out there. You can see there's cars, maps, birds, even anime and other animals. So there's a lot of these models out there that you can run. And one of the most famous ones that you probably have seen is this person does not exist. And every time you refresh this web page, you get a completely different random person that does not exist, because this is generated through the AI. And these are pretty realistic most of the time. And I've used some of these for like different icons or different things. When you don't want to use a real person, a real photo of a person, you can come to this website and grab an icon, and basically it's fake. There's also unrealperson.com, and you can kind of tell it exactly what you want to generate, the gender and your age range, and you can generate the person and download it. One of the first models that I actually got hands-on and played with and sort of modified a little bit, made into a Discord bot, is the Big Sleep. And I'm going to include this in the description in case if you're interested to play around with. I very much recommend this model. It basically has a good notebook, runs through all the steps, and you're able to change the prompt, and this is one of the results. So one thing you need to know about this GAN is it always starts with some sort of animal. In this case, kind of like a dog, and then after a few generations, it sort of gets the prompt. I don't remember what exactly this prompt is. Probably something like Gold City or something. I don't remember what I put, but you could see that it can get the vibe, and I think that's the big thing I got out of this model, is it can get the vibe of some very crazy ideas. It can't really draw exactly what you're imagining. Sort of, you can't say draw me a dog with I don't know, a top hat drinking coffee or something like that. It might be able to give you a dog and some coffee, but a lot of times it's sort of up in the air whether or not it's fully correct, and you kind of have to use your own imagination. Now, because of that, I also made a Twitter bot account. I sort of stopped tweeting for a while, but it's been a while, and there's like 1,000 tweets, I think. Yeah, 1,500 tweets of images of prompts that I just ran through. I used this website to get a bunch of prompts, and you can see it kind of follows it, like landscape of a forested landscape in fall. It kind of looks like fall, but it's still kind of ambiguous. This model is very ambiguous, and sort of back when this came out, sort of you can't really generate something that's really real. Now let's move on to the amazing leap forward for AI art that has recently taken the internet by storm, and that is diffuser based models. And uh, diffuser based models basically I kind of put the things in the wrong order, but basically diffuser based models, I don't really know how to explain them because I haven't worked with them, but here's a basic breakdown. They basically try to um, reconstruct an image, and they're trying to learn the probabilities between each step, and sort of it's generating with a Markov chain. I can't really explain it. You can read this article. But yeah, this type of model seemed to be creating a lot of great images, and one of the first cool ones that came out, I remember over, I think the summer, right before the summer, was DALL-E Mini. And DALL-E Mini, you can generate prompts, uh, generate things, and this site was actually down for a while because there's too many people trying to generate things, and the most famous prompt that it's known for to generate is like an armchair in the shape of an avocado. So here are some examples of that for and you can see it sort of made it made an armchair, and it made some sort of avocado throughout, or at least it's green. And previously with like Big Sleep, it probably can get a general idea of an armchair, but a lot of times it can't really combine the ideas and make concrete images. So this is the first time that things look really, really real. And then next we got DALL-E 2, and that is by the company OpenAI, and they've been making a lot of great advances in AI technology, including ChatGPT, which we will talk about soon. But DALL-E 2 was sort of what the DALL-E Mini was inspired by, and it's able to generate these really, really realistic images, and it's able to understand a lot of the descriptors that you put in the prompt. Like you can say in the style of Van Gogh or digital art, or you can sort of give it exact prompts of what you want the background to be, the foreground to be, and you can basically generate a lot of cool things. And you can see they've been popping up on the screen, and these are all AI generated artworks. And of course, I got DALL-E and made it generate an armchair in the shape of an avocado. And you can see that there's some armchairs that are avocado shaped and colored, and that's pretty cool. And of course, the other one that came out at this time, Midjourney, created a very unique style. I actually very like the style. They are you can only use them on through, I believe, a Discord bot and maybe a website, but basically this is their distinct style. Very smooth, very digital artwork like, but very cool style. And then of course the final model that really everybody is talking about is Stable Diffusion, and this is the web version of it, but you can download this model. They have multiple versions, version 1.1 to 5, and then they have version 2 coming out right now. And these models are basically free for you to use, and you can run them locally on your hardware, which is what I've done, and basically play with them as much as you want. And in addition to that, one thing that machine learning models can do, kind of like how you saw with GANs, where you can train it to generate cars or people or birds or anime, you can do that with a stable diffusion model. And especially since it is released in open source, everybody's been fine tuning it. Here's an example of stable diffusion doing an armchair in the shape of an avocado, which is pretty cool. And on Hugging Face, which is a great website with a lot of models and a lot of data sets and things, there's a community of people fine-tuning stable diffusion. Obviously, Stability AI, who made stable diffusion, their releases of the base model. And then there are people who made like things like Open Journey, which is trained on Midjourney, the artistic styles of Midjourney, and then things like Waifu Diffusion, which is again generating like anime. You got things like Dreamlike Diffusion. I think I opened a few of these. Dreamlike Diffusion, which is another art style, which is pretty cool. We got things like Portrait Plus, specializing in generating portraits of people and characters. So yeah, there's basically a huge community making these models, and these are free to use, and these are open source, and this is like one of the first times where people actually got to use these powerful models that can actually generate things that you tell it to, for relatively low price or even free. Like a lot of these websites, Midjourney, you can generate through their Discord bot. Stable diffusion, if you have a GPU to run it on, it runs great. And DALL-E, OpenAI gave I think 50 generations a month, or so. So there's a lot of access for people to generate AI art. And that brings me on to the controversy side. So the AI art technology has advanced to the point where a lot of things are almost indistinguishable. Of course, there's still a lot of limitations. For example, hands of people that have noticed a lot of models have trouble, specifically stable diffusion, have trouble generating the hands. Sometimes, the face or some parts of the body is sort of slightly deformed and or just completely wrong. It's also really bad at generating text and things like that. So you could definitely tell when something feels AI generated. But it's gotten to the point where it's so easy to use and so easy to create things basically by just describing it, to the point where artists are kind of not happy because of twofold. Obviously, one is a lot of people are just saying, hey, a lot of the artwork is sort of supposed to be creative and made by humans, right? And a lot of people just don't feel happy that robots are able to emulate that and create things. But I think the bigger thing that a lot of people are arguing against is sort of artists see their own work being used for training. And that is very apparent when you do things like in the style of blank. And then you'll find out that, my style is trained into this AI bot. And now people can generate things in my style for free. And I sort of didn't consent to that. And I think a lot of artists are not happy with that. And also a lot of platforms started offering to host and create AI art, which sort of directly competes against artists who do this either for fun or for money. and they're basically getting outcompeted by robots that can do it for pretty much free, and create artwork that is unique, and people aren't happy about that. And I think the one of the bigger ones that came out was DeviantArt. They basically created an AI art generator trained on that stable diffusion model that we talked about earlier. And uh, in the beginning, they trained that model with everybody's artwork on that site, on DeviantArt. And artists were not happy because they did not consent to their artwork being trained so that other people can generate artwork that looks like theirs. And I think that is a very good point where platforms and sort of machine learning scientists who are gathering data really need to be more considerate of people's consent and people's feelings about whether or not they want to be included in the data set, because there are probably more than enough data out there. And in fact, a lot of these um, machine learning models can be trained to by generating training data themselves, so that we don't really need to use everybody else's images. Obviously, being able to sample more artists to get more styles to sort of learn more things is better than not, but it definitely feels sort of like a moral and ethical gray area when you're training without someone's permission. And I think that was addressed by DeviantArt, where they basically say that now everything on DeviantArt is automatically not for training. You can opt in, and you can also sort of just say no, and people can't use it to train. That way your style isn't copied, and sort of your permission is respected. And I think another website like Getty Images also banned AI generated content because of possible legal challenges. Because the thing is, when you have this machine learning model trained on the whole internet, things might look the same as something that's already on the internet, even though it's not explicitly a copy and paste. It's sort of learned that from the internet and sort of is just regurgitating that back. Kind of like if you studied for an exam and read the same homework problem and just wrote exactly what you remembered back to answer that exam problem. So this really is a problem that the industry is grappling with, sort of whether or not to allow AI art, and whether or not to use people's artwork to give them that control, or just say no, you can't use any of the images that we host on our site to train. And of course, other people have been accusing other models like Lenza that are saying they're stealing their content, and they want to call for copyright laws to take down these models. We got people that give examples, like for example, emulating someone's watermark or signature on artwork, and that is definitely kind of telling and kind of scary that it's doing that. And my personal thoughts on this is that it's definitely the right thing to get someone's permission to use their artwork in a data set that you're training your model on. But I also think that the main concern is whether or not these artifacts, like the signature, is being generated directly Or is that being prompted? For example, I could say generate a mouse, and if it generates a mouse as Mickey Mouse, that could be a problem for the model, that the model thinks all mice are is Mickey Mouse. And but if the model is able to generate a Mickey Mouse upon prompting, like the user says, "Hey, generate me a Mickey Mouse," I don't think that's a necessarily a big problem and a copyright issue. I think that becomes an issue on the user themselves. Kind of like how I can use tools like Photoshop or another drawing app to draw Mickey Mouse. And technically, it's not Adobe's fault that I drew copyrighted content. It is my own responsibility using the tools, and it is my own discretion to then sell it, right? So obviously, if the AI is generating copyrighted content or copyrighted things like signatures unprompted, that's a big issue. But if the AI is generating these things because of being prompted, I think that's fine, because that will fall on every single individual user ability to sort of not explicitly require or prompt for that unless you wanted to. And then that moral dilemma falls upon the user. And another thing that has been sort of debated about is whether or not a piece of AI art can be copyrighted. Like, is that created by the author that put the prompt in, or is that piece of art just art for everyone? And I think currently a lot of these models like Stable Diffusion, the copyright is kind of gray. They're not going to take your copyright. They're not going to claim copyright over any of the things that you generate, but they're also not going to explicitly say that it is yours, right? Because sometimes there are things like this image. Basically, on the left is an image by an artist with his watermark, and on the right you can see copied his style and started emulating that watermark, and that's where you sort of get into the gray area. I don't think I don't know a lot about copyright law, but I don't think someone's style necessarily can be copyrighted, because you could have that same style. um but obviously the created work can be copyrighted. And if you created that prompt that created the work, I think we should allow people to sort of keep that copyright. And the thing is, you don't get the copyright on the prompt, because the prompt, if you send it into uh, the model, it will generate 10,000 different images for the same prompt, and you can choose a few that you decide that is yours, and then I think that that's pretty fair, because you came up with the prompt, especially when you have very, very specific prompts. It's kind of like almost drawing. Obviously, it's not exactly drawing, but you're coming up with the concept. You're coming up, you're sort of giving exact keywords of where to put what and what color things should be. It's kind of like the same thing as using a Photoshop tool to draw things and color things in different places. And finally, Getty Images is suing Stability AI for copying apparently 12 million photos and imitating their famous watermark. And of course, artists are suing Stable Diffusion for stealing their work in AI art. So there's a lot of lawsuits that are being played out right now. And I'm interested in seeing what happens to those lawsuits and what happens in the space. Personally, I think you should probably ask people if you can train with their images, because obviously that's just a better thing, a morally better thing, and a nice thing to do. But another thing is, if you put it on the internet, it is public, and in a way, like, humans can browse across art and sort of get inspiration, and later on create that piece of artwork that was inspired by, or even just subconsciously is inspired by that artwork that they saw. Similar to these models that are being trained on thousands and thousands or millions of images. It's not going to exactly remember every single one, but it will gather bits and pieces of style and how things are done from all of them, and then eventually create that artwork. So it is a very complicated thing to sort of sort out. I would like to think that people should obviously ask for permission, but also people shouldn't say that the AI is necessarily stealing and copying them, because um, it's kind of not, when it's just gathering information and data about the whole internet. Uh, so yeah, that's kind of my thoughts. It's definitely a topic, and if you're interested in debating, leave a comment below with your thoughts. And I think I might do a follow-up video on this topic, sort of if these lawsuits go anywhere, or if there's a brand new model that generates even better images. I'll definitely be talking about that in the future. But I think that is all for today's video. If you liked it, make sure to leave a thumbs up, and leave comments below, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, and I will talk to you later. Bye bye.